the petrodollar, gold, our current buying power today, and what's coming tomorrow? Stay tuned and find out. Welcome to the Wealth Transfer. My name is Terry Saka. I'm the Chief Strategist, and I am along with Dr. Charles Vance. Charles, welcome.
Thanks, Terry. Some people say, what is Charles Vance on there for? I'm here just to try to keep Terry straight and understandable. So stay around for a little.
It's because I am just on fire. It's like I got a Holy Spirit fire coming out of my ears and my mouth, and I'm ready to rip it up and in the spirit realm.
Yeah, see?
But Charles got to keep it down because we are so involved in, well, Cornerstone, I know Wealth Transfer Ministries, we are so involved in getting the kingdom ready for what's coming. And, you know, in order to, well, before we get going, let me do this. Go visit us. In order to find us, how you can find us is go to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. You can view the TV programs there, wealthtransferministries.org. Go to Cornerstone Asset Metals Facebook page as well for updates. The Twitter is Terry Saka AAMS. And go to Instagram, Cornerstone Mint. Boy, do they do a beautiful job on short videos as well as beautiful graphics of real money. So we encourage you to visit there. So we have an exciting program today, Charles, going into petrodollar.
Yeah, last week we were talking about currency and really the fakeness of it. It's called the Federal Reserve. If you go on the Federal Reserve Bank's website, they actually call it fiat.
They do,
which is amazing. But most people, I've done a lot of financial seminars, you have to explain the word fiat because most people don't know that.
And I know you say fake.
It just means fake.
Now, Charles likes to say fake, which is absolutely accurate, but fiat really is just, it's not backed up tangibly. Now, it doesn't have to be gold and silver per se. In the Middle East, it's oil. But any form of real, tangible, something that is physical and exchangeable, that was always considered real money, of course, because we need to eat. And these things are something that you can't really, well, better yet, you can't fake it and you can't make it, right? 31.1 grams is an ounce. And so fiat is so fake.
In Bible days, they actually used spices even to exchange for,
absolutely.
for different things.
No, that would be real tangible wealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
land,
and this,
anything that, this is a piece of paper.
Now, you know where this becomes tangible? Because it's cotton to some extent.
There you go. That would be about it.
But that's
really
about it.
What people need to understand is the only value this has is the value that someone will give you for it.
Right.
Because it really has no tangible value on its own.
That's
you can't do anything with it. It's a piece of paper.
And what happens if the world, now we're going to get into, wait till you see what's coming in the weeks to come, and we'll get into the stages of empire. Boy, is that just unbelievable information. But the world, when they actually start having a confidence issue with the dollar, which, by the way, is happening right now because China and Russia and other countries are now doing trade and financial transactions without the dollar. Now, in the 6th stage of an empire, in the 7 stages of a collapsing empire, we find that the confidence of the currency loses. Now, when we get into these details, you're going to love it. But right now we're in stage 6. And the world is already changing away from the dollar as a pegged currency to use in the middle between 2 countries for finance. And here's the problem. We printed so many trillions. We have upwards of 100 trillion in debt and obligation going forward. So we have a big essential bankruptcy problem, but we're not going bankrupt, but you get the point. What we're saying is it's changing. The standard is changing. And so today, as we get into this with the petrodollar and showing you how they changed it, you're going to find it interesting because we didn't catch it. It was the Vietnam War at the time. We didn't really just pay attention because we were distracted. And now we're 47 years later. It worked for a while we were printing money, but now it's coming to an end. It has to. It's just part of history if you see it. It's always been done 100% of the time, by the way. We're not going to be any different this time. So
this is the 4th national bank that is in existence. This is bank, again, I said this
in America, mind you.
Yeah, in America. I said this last week. The banking system is not owned and operated by the government. It's owned and operated by, they do this on purpose to make you think it's the government, the Federal Reserve banking system. They want you to think Federal Reserve.
Well, you know what? Let's do this, because what we're showing today is going to actually graphically show some of that. So let's go get into some of that right now. Let me start off with this, with the petrodollar, because how did we get away from our paper currency being backed by a tangible asset? Well, we could only thank our beloved President Nixon. Now here, President Nixon was a series of economic measures that were taken with the United States and, well, I won't go into saying that way, just to say Middle East. This was in 1971, the most significant of which was unilateral cancellation of the direct convertibility of the United States dollar to gold. Now, when Nixon did this, and he took the gold standard away from the paper currency, we now were afloat. Now, why did the world accept that? What makes you think? Now, we're just coming out of World War II, mind you.
It was probably because the United States government was so sound, in control. Would that be right?
Well, you know what? Excellent. But sound how? They own 75%. We own 75% of the world's gold after World War II. You see, the Europeans paid us in gold for the goods and services we provided for during World War II. So we were it. We were the wealthiest nation in the world. Gold was backed, but then it got carried away. We needed to get out of it, and why? Right here. French President de Gaulle. He caught on in the 60s. Now, as you can see in that chart there, our money printing in the blue skyrocketed from World War II up and through the 60s. And then the red, you see our U.S. gold outflow began. Now, de Gaulle, the French President de Gaulle, caught on, and he realized that America essentially was getting loans for free. And so he said, forget this paper stuff. I don't want to hold this anymore. It used to be convertible to gold. I don't want to hold it because I don't believe you have the gold to back it up. So he starts demanding his gold and starts giving us this junk. Now, other countries caught on, and all this gold starts leaving America. It was flowing out to the tune of almost 12,000 tons had left America, and Nixon had no choice. He had to take us off the gold standard. We would have been found out to be a fraud, and we would have been bankrupt, and it would have been over. I think what's amazing to me is Nixon actually convinced those people in '71 that, oh, don't worry about the gold. We have the best military. We're sound in our judgment. Like we have this moral compass. Right. And here it is. So trust us. So people did.
Dangerous words.
Yeah, they trusted us. But here's what ended up happening to our dollar right here. If you notice, the top certificate actually says the word certificate. It says silver certificate. And then in the bottom, it says $1. Now look at the bottom one, Federal Reserve note. And at the bottom, it says $1. Do you see what they just did? They call them both a dollar. But constitutionally, as we showed a couple programs ago,
one is and one's not.
Yes, dollar is, or money is defined as grains of silver, storage of value over time. We got fooled with this paper currency. They flipped us overnight, and most Americans didn't catch on because it still looked like a dollar. And the only difference was it said reserve note instead of silver certificate. And that's pretty fascinating stuff. Yeah, I guess the best way to probably explain this, but we'll have to do this in the next, let's do this in the next
We'll do it in the next set, just in about a minute or so.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Here's what I want people to understand. Here's why we're here. We want you to be prepared for your future. What we're seeing happen in the system, the currency system right now, is a very, very dangerous thing because it seems like there's no stopping place to how many dollar bills and $100 bills or whatever the currency is that they're printing, that they have a stopping place, and it feels like they're just going to keep going. It's causing inflation, which makes your currency worth less and less, your paycheck worth less and less constantly. We're going to go to a break and show you how that you can ensure your future. Watch this. We'll be right back.
Buying power. What does it mean to you and your family? Have you noticed the prices of everything we buy are rising? Goods and services are becoming more expensive, and the money you work so hard for buys less and less and less. If you saved $250,000 in cash in the 1960s, that cash today would be worth approximately the same, $250,000. Yet does it have the same buying power today? No, not even close. Now take that same $250,000 from the 60s saved in silver instead of cash. Today, it would be worth a staggering $4.25 million. Now that's buying power. Protect and preserve your buying power now by rolling over a portion of your IRA into a silver IRA. Use the power of constitutional money silver to protect your standard of living in retirement and maintain the quality of life you are hoping for. The paper dollar you are saving has tremendous challenges ahead, so don't delay. Call Cornerstone Asset Metals now at 888-747-3309. Don't give away your hard-earned savings any longer. Be diversified. Get protected today.
Welcome back. Now, one thing I want to reiterate before we get going is Cornerstone Asset Metals is an absolute phenomenal company for educating us and preparing us for the future. I encourage you, if you want to protect your IRAs and 401ks, to go visit their website, register for information. You can give them a call. They're standing by right now, operators I know, but they're there to educate you, make sure you're properly diversified and protected for the great reset that's coming in the future. Good news is, once you get yourself protected, you don't really have to think too much about it. You can have peace of mind because the stock market's not predictable right now, and these low prices are a good time to take advantage of silver.
We've been talking about currency in the last few programs, and there's a video that you have that is probably more descriptive in a nutshell than maybe some of the things that we've been talking about.
This is phenomenal.
It is amazing.
Yeah, this is a great video. Watch this, and it'll really put together what we've been saying over the last couple of weeks. Check this out.
Decades, our country's monetary system was based on what is called the gold standard. This helped our nation thrive during the Industrial Revolution and made us the center of economic power that we are today, even making the dollar the world's reserve currency. What a gold standard represented was that our money meant something. It wasn't just a piece of paper with some ink printed on it. Prior to 1971, the dollar was on the gold standard, which simply meant that every single dollar had a portion of gold stored at the U.S. Treasury. A dollar was essentially a gold certificate, or a claim on gold. Only a certain amount of money could be printed according to how much gold we had in reserves at the U.S. Treasury. However, on August 15, 1971, due to pressures from the central banks and an expansion in government, President Nixon claimed he was going to temporarily suspend the U.S. gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
They led the American people to believe that the suspension of the gold standard was a temporary measure that Washington had to take, while fully understanding that this abolishment would be permanent. From this point on, the dollar wasn't tied to gold anymore, and it became what is referred to as a floating currency, or a fiat currency. Now, with nothing constraining its creation, our money supply exploded and all bets were off. Our currency was now prisoner to a few elite banking institutions that could create money as they deemed necessary. Abolishing the gold standard was the last hurdle for the financial elite to overcome. From here on out, the money poured in for the top 1% of our country and changed the course of America forever. This destroyed the value of our currency for the majority of us, while a small percentage made fortunes.
Welcome back. That video is extremely explanatory. I want to read something Thomas Jefferson wrote. He said, "The central bank is an institution of the most deadly hostility existing against the principles and the form of our Constitution. If the American people allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of their property until their children wake up homeless on the continent that their fathers conquered." Man, that's a powerful statement from one of our forefathers.
You know what's amazing about that? We did the inflation. We're in deflation. We're right there because we're in inflation, deflation. Now, deflation, supposedly prices come down because there's no activity. Inflation, prices are rising, but everything is so messed up. We have massive inflation on our goods and services, and we have a list of them. Matter of fact, purchasing power right behind me here. Let's put that up, Nick. Purchasing power here of the U.S. dollar, 1913 to very close to today. We started out where a dollar bought you a dollar's worth. So the government would issue the dollar, they print it, they get a full dollar of value. We get the dollar, we used to be able to get a full dollar of value. So back in 1913, for instance, a dollar bought you a lot of stuff, didn't it?
Sure.
I mean,
Absolutely,
yeah, penny candy, you know, this was rich.
Buy a lot of candy.
Well, for Charles, that is everything.
Well, think about it. You could buy today, if you could still buy penny candy, you could buy $17 worth of penny candy today.
Think about that, right. And so what they did in the buying power of this, by all this money printing and all the shenanigans they've done in this financial world, this is how it's really impacting us. Because if you see this chart today, it shows you, regardless, we don't have to get into the timelines of it, but the bottom line is what used to be worth a full dollar of buying power is now literally worth 5 cents. And I contend it's really down more like 3 cents. And what does that tell you? It's almost worthless. And this is scary, you know, because something has to come out of that. There needs to be a retooling of the system, because we've exhausted this new dollar standard we're in.
These people are brilliant that run this system, obviously. Yeah. I mean, anybody that would design this system and get it over on the government, first of all, and then get it over onto the people.
Yes.
They're brilliant, but they've been running it for a long time.
Right.
And it's like they're kicking the can down the road because they keep printing and printing. One of the things that's happening is the governments of the world are not now are not using, like they used to, using American currency to trade with.
Well, and that's actually, by the way, that package I know that Cornerstone sends out to people that are interested in maybe protecting their IRAs or 401ks. It has some fantastic stuff in there about the pegs or the nails in the coffin of the dollar. It shows how they're eroding the dollar and how countries are moving away from it. It's so important to understand. When we get into the series coming up with China and show you how that Chinese yuan currency is taking down the dollar value, they'll understand what's coming.
This is not just doom and gloom.
Oh, nothing to do with doom and gloom.
This is get prepared.
Yes.
Because the people that I saw, there were all kinds of people that made money during the Great Depression because they had prepared themselves for a financial collapse of the system.
Now, a lot of people don't realize. Now, it happens so slow.
And even if it's just
incremental.
Movement, but what if it's just movement? Even if it's still movement, if you have yourself prepared and you're in the right place, there's going to be increase that comes to you instead of decrease.
Do you have a $20? Well, you don't need a $20 bill.
Yeah,
I guess
no,
it doesn't
I got some
matter,
hundreds.
does it? Okay, let's just say this was a $20 bill. Here's an example of what we're getting at for purchasing power. You see, it's not a doom and gloom, and I know Charles and I have this conversation. It's not doom and gloom. It's really purchasing power. So, you know, if I'm going to purchasing power, it's doom and gloom, who cares? I'm not into this economic collapse, even to this calamity stuff that you hear. It's not about that. What is this buying you? You're saving it. You're working hard for it. You inherit it to the children's children. What is it actually buying you over time? You notice the gas prices rising, food costs rising, right? Look at this image. $20 in 1972, before they started this. A full shopping cart of food, $20 would buy you. Today, that same $20 gets you about 3 items. That's not very good buying power. Now, if you had held on to the silver, that same buying power, you'd still get a full bag of groceries, because what you do is you sell your silver when you need to. You convert it back to this. I still buy the same amount of groceries I did 25 years ago because I save in physical silver and not currency. So it's pretty amazing.
It really is amazing. If we can just simply learn that tangible things are much more important than what the government and the Federal Reserve calls fiat, then we can come to a place where we start setting our portfolio for our retirement, for our future. And you don't have to be old to do this. Be someone that is wise, that looks at your IRA, your 401k, and look and see how you can diversify and become someone who is established for your future. Here's a short informational clip that will help you understand it. Watch.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So I wanted to get into the reason we wanted to show you that buying power issue is because what has been happening over the last 47 years has led up to right now today. And what we're experiencing today is a tremendous amount of printed currencies, 150 trillion of debt added globally. And we're at this point. Now, granted, I am 100% on board that I believe our president is doing phenomenal negotiations, but the media is not showing you the real reasons why. The underlying is what we've been going over in these programs here is that the global situation, the petrodollar, and we're going to get into more details on the petrodollar in the future, China and Russia taking down the reserve currency status, all this is coming to a head. Here's what concerns me. If our buying power, if everything's supposedly okay, yet this doesn't buy us nearly what it used to, not even close. Here's what really concerns me. Check this out. This is New York Stock Exchange Investor Credit and the Market. Now what that is when I say credit in the market, they go into what we call a margin. And in the margin debt, like if you have $100,000, you go in the stock market, you can borrow $100,000. So this is showing that...
Whoa, wait a minute.
I know.
You're saying if you buy $100,000 worth of stock, they'll loan you another $100,000?
Yes, it's called margin.
Okay.
And so I want to get in and explain a little bit, but Charles has got an angle I think that's kind of important spiritually here. So.
Well, the scripture says, Proverbs chapter 22:3, a sensible person sees danger and takes cover, but the inexperienced keep going and are punished. You know, there's a lot of people that don't want you to warn them about things. There's a mentality even in the church world now that people say, don't judge me about something. Well, listen, if I'm driving down the interstate 70 miles an hour and there's a bridge out a mile ahead, I want somebody to jump out in the road and say, stop your car, there is a bridge out. I want them to do that. I don't want to drive by and say, don't judge me, don't tell me I'm driving too fast, don't tell me I'm going the wrong direction or I shouldn't keep going.
And I think what relates here, why that relates to us here, is it's not an economic doom and gloom. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about that we're getting ready to experience a real big increased problem with buying power because there is going to be an underlying inflation that's taking place. And even if all this goes into an economic expansion, let's say Trump just blows this whole thing away and we go into a whole new economic expansion. The problem is it'll be massive inflation. Either way, we're in trouble. Let's look at this market chart one more time. Look at the blue line. On the left, it's going all the way back to 1980, basically when we started this new currency. And then you see the blue line, that's the S&P, that's just going up and going down, going up, down. Now, the red is when people take money out of, or borrow money, I'm sorry, to go into the stock market. The green is when they get out of all credit and they stay in one-to-one or cash. So the blue line, if you notice, as it goes up and then crashes in the middle, that's 2000. That's 9/11, folks. And if you notice, we were heavily in the credit margin section right before we crashed. Then we went to a little bit of savings in green. Then the markets, we corrected everything. They started printing more money. They stimulated the economy. They went back up in the stock market, the blue line, back to, yes, 2008. Now, we all remember 2008, right? Now, look at the green spike in people hoarding cash and saving money in 2008. And then you notice the blue line collapses again. That's the Great Recession we've all experienced. Since then, we've printed trillions, up to $4.5 trillion, just on the Federal Reserve, not counting swaps and global. We won't go there. Look at where that stock market blue line is now. Unbelievable, parabolic, almost stratospheric.
Now, what's going to happen if that continues to do that? What's going to happen to the stock market?
And that's it, because the red on the bottom right there is a mountain of credit and margin debt. Let me visualize this for you folks. So we were showing you, here's what they did for our buying power. We printed all this money. Here's where we are today. That red is such a large, look at compared to 2000 and 2008. Think about that. And 2008 was a pretty big stock market crash, right? The margin debt is this. Here's the visual for you. Think of 10,000 cattle. It's a good Montana slang here. 10,000 cattle going through your front door. That's margin debt, because when the stock market actually collapses, not the 10% it's off now, everyone's going to try to sell, because if you're in margin, you need to sell first or you lose everything. Think of 10,000 cattle going through the door at the same time. That's what's going to happen when the stock market sells off. Are you prepared for that? Are you ready? Properly being diversified right now is so paramount. Stay in the stock market if you want to catch a little gain. Think of it this way. If you want to double your money, is the goal of retirement accounts typically, right? Let's just say. The stock market right now today would have to go to 50,000 in the Dow. Right now it's at 25. I don't see it going to 50,000 anytime soon. It's down 10% from the high of the year already. Gold totaled $2,600. Now, it's never been there, but it doesn't mean it can't go there, but it's never been there. Silver, on the other hand. Silver. To double your money in your portfolio in silver, you just have to go to 32 from here. And silver has been there a dozen times over the last 10 years. So what's more probable if you really care about your future in your account? The stock market, gold, or silver? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because right now we are in such an epic period, as you can see by this chart, of credit and margin. And I understand the euphoria. I'm excited too. We have to clean the global system, though. It's going to. Well, I think what the president is doing is preparing us to come out of what's coming. And so properly positioning and diversifying now today is huge. So I just wanted to make sure we got that across.
Well, if you have a 401k, an IRA, and it's not diversified, if you're just one place, if you're just stuck in one spot, we just want to encourage you to take a look at that. And I'm telling you, some of the greatest people that you're going to find that will help you see that are the people at Cornerstone. And there's some information that's coming up that we just want you to take a look at. Just take a look at it very strongly. I believe it's going to change your future. Get ready and always be prepared for wealth to be transferred to you and not from you.